So when you talk about brand, you mean like taking the corporation's brand and making that consistent and I guess communicated throughout all the facilities? Is that what you mean by that?
Well, it's interesting because for one of the corporations, I had a global position, and that was what we were trying to do because the company had grown by acquisitions. And so you had all of these leftover cultures from where people came, and the um, the new CEO that came on board, he said he wanted it to be one culture. And so we worked with the branding people, the C-suite, and we developed, okay, what does it mean to be branded? Because people were going from one site to another, and they didn't want them so different. They want to be able to, so they go in, they feel comfortable. However, one of the things that we also recognized there were we wanted it so the people who lived in, say, whether it was India or whether it was in Budapest or whatever, that they felt comfortable in that environment because it was reflective of their culture. And that's where we took places like employee lounges, or we took the dining halls, or we took, other spaces, and we personalized it for that location. And so it was reflective of the culture of that location. But the main workplace was very consistent, right down to the technology. So when you went into a conference room, whether you were in London or Paris or the United States, you had the same technology, you had consistency. So you began to feel like one firm. And at the same time, we developed a color palette that came in, different ranges. And we recognized some parts of the world like very subtle color, while others like intensity. So what we did is we took the colors that were part of the brand of the firm, and we took not the primary logo, because we kept the logo as being the logo only, but the ones that they used in print and advertising. And we had it in different values. So you could have it in the different values depending on where you're located. So again, it's giving people choice and recognizing that not one shoe fits all people.
Yeah, but being able to have like you said, the core elements, like so that somebody off in maybe a more remote city, not a main city, still feels like, hey, we're still mainstream. We may be in a smaller location, but we're still, kind of the big time with the rest of the company. We're not forgotten
Right.
and stuff like that. And at the same time, also valued, because one of my questions was like, how do you move a multinational company towards standardization amidst various cultures around the world? And that's exactly, what you just spoke to. So it's very interesting.
It took a long time. I worked with the other real estate groups in the different locations around the globe, and we and one of the biggest things is when you worked in, Asia uses much smaller standards than the United States. And, and the people over in the Asian countries, they had the responsibility of accommodating so many people in a space and adhering to a certain standard that is very dominant in their locations. Whereas the United States, we always are much bigger than most countries. And so, but what we had to do, which is also something that you have to be very careful of, because I've ran into this in several of my positions, we had to downsize work area spaces. And that's where you develop advisory committees and you have major discussions on this. You talk about where are the things, how can you do this and bring people along, because change management is a big thing. But working with the different groups around the globe, we had developed design, I call them guidelines and standards, and we developed them for the specific regions, but we also linked them with certain elements. So it was very recognizable that you were in a city location, but at the same time you were tailoring it towards the people who were working there.